In this video, I'm going to show you how to apply a texture to a model in Blender for 3D printing. This is a beginner tutorial, so you don't need to know how to use Blender at all. I'm going to show you how to make sure the textures are applied in the correct places, and I will also show you how to make clean surfaces for 3D printing. At the end, we will have a Blender model with a texture that is ready for 3D printing. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is go to polyhaven.com. We're going to go to Assets and then go to Textures. We're going to find a texture we like. I'm going to use a brick texture for this. I'm going to use this brick wall here. When you click on the texture, go to this pancake menu on the upper right, click that, and then go to Displacement and download a PNG file. So you'll see this just opens the image here. You can either press Ctrl S to save, or click on this menu and then click Save Page As. And I'm going to save this to the Downloads folder. So next we're going to go to Blender. So when you open Blender, you'll see this screen here, and what we're going to do is just click in the background here. Then we go to Select All, or you could press A, select these objects, and then press Delete to remove them. Then we're going to add a cylinder. So we go to Add, Mesh, and then Cylinder. And this cylinder appears here. Note that this menu appeared on the lower left. So click on this and increase the number of vertices to 100. So now we can go to the upper left and change from object mode to edit mode. You can see that there is this mesh here. It's still pretty coarse though, so we'll need to increase the fineness, or increase the resolution of this mesh. So back to object mode, and then select the cylinder. Then go to modifiers, add modifier. We're going to go to generate, and then remesh. I like the sharp remesh, and we'll change the octree depth to 8. Now we'll click on this drop-down arrow and click Apply. So we just increased the resolution of the mesh. We can't see it in object mode. We need to go to edit mode for this. It looks black, but we zoom in and you can see it's a really fine mesh right now. Now I'm going to show you how to apply the displacement modifier to apply the texture to this, but I'm going to do it in the wrong way to start so you can see where there's common mistakes. So let's go to Add Modifier. We're going to go to Deform and then Displace. When you click on the Displace modifier, this texture properties icon appears here. So let's click on that. Now we'll go to New to add a new texture. And I'm going to name this texture Brick. And then we will navigate to Open. And I save the texture to my Downloads folder. So I'm going to click on this and open the image. Now we're done with this texture property. So we go back to Modifiers. And you can see that it has the brick texture here. So this should be applied to the model now. We don't see it in edit mode. We need to go back to object mode using the drop down in the upper left. So this here looks like a disaster right now. Even if we reduce the strength, it does not look correct at all. You can see there is a brick texture on top, but the sides are all completely wrong. So I'm going to show you how to put the texture just on the outer walls of this cylinder only. So what we will do is we are going to go back to edit mode, and then I'm going to click on this Y here to view it, this normal view. Next, what we want to do is go to Viewport Shading Wireframe, because we want to select all of the walls here. If we're in the solid viewport shading, it won't select all the vertices through as we select. I'll show you what that looks like here. So we're in wireframe, so I can see through the cylinder now. So make sure you are in vertex selection mode on the upper left. and then hold Shift and start selecting like so. Then use middle mouse to move. So note that I am not selecting this very top row of vertices. I'm selecting the row below. And we're going to do this for the whole cylinder. So you don't need to be super precise. We'll get it cleaned up later. Let's do the same thing on the bottom. Don't select that lower row. Now I'm going to select the rest of the vertices like so. Okay, so I've selected these like so here. We go to this object data properties here. We're going to create a new vertex group. Double click this group, call it walls. And I'm going to click assign. So that assigns these selected vertices to this vertex group called walls. So let's look at what that looks like. So while we're in wireframe mode, it renders kind of funny like this. So let's go back to solid. And there, now it's fixed. So if I deselect and I click on walls here and click select, it reselects just those vertices there. Next, what we want to do is create a seam along here that will allow us to unwrap this mesh or this vertex group along. It's pretty easy. Let's zoom in here. I'm going to select the edge select tool on the upper left, then click up here, and I'm using shift and middle mouse to move. So I selected one edge up here. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to select another edge. It doesn't quite matter where, we'll fix it later. Now we go to select, linked, and then shortest path. You'll see that this has found the shortest path between these two selections. There's a bit of a mistake up here though, so hold shift and click to deselect those, and while holding shift, just click this one to select it. So now we've selected a nice straight line all the way up and down. I'm going to create a new vertex group. Double click that. I'm going to name this seam, and I'm going to assign these edges to seam. So I'm going to show you now why we created that seam so you can learn a little bit about the UV editing. Up top, go to UV editing, and it splits the screen of these two menus here. Click on walls here, and then click on select. Now go to UV and click on unwrap conformal, and this will take a second. What's going to happen is we're going to unwrap these walls into a 2D shape, and it's going to put that 2D shape on the left here. I'm going to bring our brick wall texture into here, like so, and that was this icon at the top. So this doesn't look like what we want. I'm going to go back to the model here, the mesh here. I'm going to click on seam, click on select, and here it is over here. We go to UV, and then click on mark seam. You'll see that it is now marked red. Even if we click off or deselect, it's marked red here. Now what we can do is click on walls here, make sure nothing else is selected, select this vertex group, go to UV, top, and then go to unwrap conformal, and you'll see how this changes on the left. So now this has unwrapped kind of like if you're taking the paper off of a metal can. So it's unwrapped into just a rectangle now. And that's what we want. So let's go back to object mode now. And I'm going to just stay in this UV editing pane here. Now what we'll do is go back to the modifiers. We're going to change our coordinates from local to UV. And look, now our bricks are applied just to the outer walls of our cylinder, and they actually look like bricks now. Something you'll note though is up top, it's kind of this weird lip right here. This doesn't look very good. Let's look at the bottom. It's kind of a weird lip down here too. This is going to make 3D printing not so great. How we fix that So we go to the vertex group in the displacement modifier, and we select walls. So I'm going to click walls, and there. Now it's flattened out. That makes it so the texture is only applied to the vertex group that we selected previously. And look, the top is nice and flat as well. You see that there's kind of this sharp lip here. We can fix this using the mid-level. So I can drag this until it's nice and vertical. That looks pretty good. The bottom looks pretty good as well. This strength is a bit high, so I can reduce this to 0.05 for the bricks. That's a bit more of a reasonable strength. You can change that to whatever you want. But now note that these bricks are going up and down. That's not really how you lay bricks. We want to rotate them 90 degrees. So what we'll do is we go back to edit mode. And if this isn't selected here, so like this, use this tool in the upper left called UV Island Selection. Click on this and click here. Now what we want to do is we want to rotate this 90 degrees. So we can go to UV, transform, and rotate, or you can press R, that's the hotkey. So if you move the mouse, it rotates. I like using the hotkey more. So don't worry about positioning this exactly 90 degrees. I'll just place it here at like 30 degrees or so. This menu down here pops up, so open that up and just change this to 90. Then press enter, and now it's perfectly 90 degrees. Now we want to move this to the center of the texture. So we go back to UV, transform, and move, or use the hotkey G. Move your mouse until it looks like it's nicely centered. I think that looks good. Let's go back to object mode now. And look, now these bricks are all in the horizontal direction. There's some other things that we can do to change the texture here. We can make the bricks smaller or stretched out or really anything that we want. So we're going to go back to edit mode. This is still selected. So I'm going to use the scale tool, or press S, and then you can press Y, and that will lock the scaling to the Y axis as you move the mouse. So let's just exaggerate this quite a bit, like so, and click. Then go back to object mode. You can see it has really flattened out the bricks here because this mesh is covering a whole bunch more bricks. So this looks like it's really squashed down. So let's go back to edit mode. Now I'm going to press S and then X to keep it locked to the X axis. I'm going to stretch this out like so. So I'm going to scale this by 2. If you scale it by 2 exactly, it will make sure that there's not like a weird seam from the texture not overlapping correctly. So you can multiply, I could change this to 3 or 4. It will just multiply it by the width of this brick texture. Let's go back to object mode. So that looks a lot better now. The bricks look like they have a better, more reasonable aspect ratio. And there's no seam. I'm going to put a seam in here so you can see what that looks like. So here's what I was talking about. There's kind of a seam here, right here, all down the part. Doesn't look great. But that's why we scale by the integer values. So I'm going to put this back now. Go to edit. So I'm going to press S, then X. So if you make that seam on accident, you can just rescale to basically the size of the square here. Go back to object mode, and that seam will disappear. So I'm going to quickly make some adjustments to this brick pattern to make it nice for 3D printing. So now that I have the brick texture set up the way that I like it, we're going to export this as an STL. So I go to File, and then Export, and then STL. And then I'll export that to my Downloads folder here. And then we'll import it into Bamboo Studio next. I'm going to import the model into Bamboo Studio. So I select the model, and then I get this object too small, and it asks, do you want to scale to millimeters? And click on yes. So here's our model imported in Bamboo Studio. I'm going to slice it. And just as I suspected, there are some overhangs on the bricks, but it looks like it should print okay. I don't see anything catastrophic. So let's get it printing. So the print is finished. Let's take a look. It looks just like our model in Blender. And there's no issue with any of the overhangs. Looks good.